Support for Iowa Catholic Radio and Making It Personal is provided by Sarah Vocations Ministry. Learn more at joinserra.org.
Making It Personal with Bishop William Joensen on Iowa Catholic Radio and iowacatholicradio.com.
Welcome to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen. I'm Jeanne Thill. Today's show, we might be in big trouble. Uh-oh. No. Major Ryan Doty is with us. He's with the Des Moines Police Department, but he's also vice president of St. Vincent de Paul Council. So how that connection happens is going to be an interesting conversation.
I think it meshes very well, and we look forward to unfolding that for our people. Again, here we are, Saturday. This is the actual feast of St. Albert the Great.
Yes.
Not only a brilliant scientist who wove and combined faith and reason in an elegant way, but then his own weakness, and again, dementia at the later portion of his life. So maybe a patron and an intercessor for families who are experiencing that with one of their beloved family members also. On the heels of the bishops' meeting in Baltimore, all was well there, and it was kind of it's always a charge to be among the brothers. I think we really do have a sense of solidarity, a college of bishops, if you will, and the solidarity that we experience allows us in our own respective dioceses to be what the Lord needs us to be. Looking forward to, we speak of St. Albert, they're undergoing a kind of a strategic planning session. They've drawn different stakeholders who represent that community, who have a passion for the mission of St. Albert, and we look to join them this morning and just be with them. They started last night or yesterday afternoon in a very intensive session. So may the Holy Spirit be guiding each member there and the vision that emerges for them also. Our sponsors, we always want to give credit to the St. Sarah Club of Des Moines, the Sarah Club of Council Bluffs for sponsoring Making It Personal. That St. Sarah Club of Des Moines will be having their annual appreciation dinner on Sunday night, tomorrow night. And so looking forward to gathering Jeanne, you and John, and others who advance and promote vocations in a powerful way. Next week, you talk about being on the road, and one of the things that the bishops voted on was to do the next edition of the National Eucharistic Congress. And so, Jeanne, we were together in Indianapolis. We even broadcast this show from Indianapolis. Let's get her ready for 2029. We'll resume with that. So a nice hiatus of if I do the math, 5 years. Yeah. So I think it'll be a ripe season to renew that, the graces of the Eucharistic Congress. But Lucas Oil Stadium will be hopping this weekend as we have the National Catholic Youth Conference. And so, and again, so many represented. And this time on Friday morning, the special encounter with our Holy Father, Pope Leo the 14th, who is making a special initiative to engage young people. He'll have a message prepared, I suspect, but then some live questions, and then some select bishops afterwards will help to facilitate what was exchanged during that time, and what other questions or what other observations. And then that evening, we look forward to our own Katie Wilberding of Holy Trinity Parish, who will be kind of reflecting upon the National Catholic Youth Ministers' experience in Ghana, sponsored by Catholic Relief Services. And so she'll be appearing with some of her peers on the main stage at Lucas Oil Stadium. And so kind of proud moment for us in the Diocese of Des Moines. We think of this month of November. We think of the ways in which we continue to lift up those who've gone before us. May God's purification be for them. For us in the Northern Hemisphere, the change of seasons, the dying of the leaves, the colors were, I think, later than ever this year than I can ever recall. But that way in which nature herself bears witness to that transformation that occurs through a kind of process of dying. And so in the spirit of that, and me, once in a while you got to let your inner poetry loose. So thanks to our great Anthony Heck poet, his Ostiantica poem, "What was begun, the mastered force breeds and is healing. Pebbles and clover speak. Each hanging water drop burns with the fierce beat of the sun's instilling. But softly beneath the flute song and volatile shriek of birds are to be heard discourse, mother and son." For me, intimating perhaps the dialogue between Augustine and his mother Monica. If there were hushed to us the images of earth, its poles hushed, and the waters of it, and hushed the tumult of the flesh, even the voice intrinsic of our souls, so that the washed object fixed in the sun were dumb, and to the mind its brilliance were from beyond itself, and the mind were clear as the unclouded dome wherein all things diminish. In that silence might we not confidently hear God as he wished. Then from the grove suddenly falls a flight of bells. A figure moves from the wood, darkly approaching at the hour of vespers along the ruined walls, and bearing heavy articles of blood and symbols of endurance, whispers, "This is love."
And with that, we need to take a quick break. And when we come back, we will be visiting with Major Ryan Doty from the Des Moines Police Department, who is also Vice President of the St. Vincent de Paul Council. You're listening to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen on the Iowa Catholic Radio Network and the Spirit Catholic Radio Network. Welcome back to Making Personal with Bishop Joensen. Our guest today is Major Ryan Doty with the Des Moines Police Department and Vice President of St. Vincent de Paul Council.
And I think a recognition of the contributions you make to the department, to the city of Des Moines and beyond. Major Ryan Doty. I think I knew you when you were just Captain Ryan Doty.
That's true.
My first arrival 6 years ago in Des Moines, and then the summer after, things unfolding with George Floyd and everything else. And we were on a panel, I believe, together at Mercy Hospital, kind of addressing some of those issues.
Yep.
I'm quite impressed with you at that time, and obviously others are too. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So.
Bishop, we have to sing the St. Edmund Gale.
All right.
song.
Well, I can't get away with that. I don't know. I think we have the equipment can't handle that. I don't know.
Oh no. Okay, fine. But yeah, we're compadres here. St. Edmund graduates. So
unlike St. Albert, where we have the Saints and the Falcons, the women and the men,
we're the Gales.
Everyone's a Gale.
Everyone's a Gale.
No, we're way ahead of our time.
Yeah.
No Galettes.
No Galettes. No.
Okay. All right. So does that presume a kind of Irish?
And with their colors being green and white, yeah, Irish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Even though I'm German, it's
Okay.
They were very welcoming.
Okay. So, and we won't ask how many years ago that was. You had your 50th.
We had our 50th class reunion this year, so
And roughly 20 years for you, I believe. So,
give or take.
Yeah, give or take.
All right. And in a former life, we won't even go there.
No.
When I was an Iowa State undergrad, I would officiate basketball at St. Edmunds.
Okay.
And Catholic fans are very passionate. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
So, Major Doty, family there, was a family with law enforcement connections, or how did this kind of path in life unfold?
Yeah, absolutely. My father was a police officer in Fort Dodge, and so growing up, I can remember going to coffee with him and his friends, and at the time, it was more sugar water for me than coffee by the time you put in milk and 18 packets of sugar, but I wanted to be like everybody else. But
I would not to be too much of an anedonate, maybe, or not.
Maybe. So that's really all I ever wanted to do. I got hired at the Fort Dodge Police Department when I was 19. Worked there for about 5.5 years or so before moving to Des Moines and getting on with the Des Moines Police Department. And so, just kind of followed in Dad's footsteps, not only in his career path, but also in his life path as far as charitable works and being involved, which really kind of led me to, I was involved with the United Way in Fort Dodge, and when I got to Des Moines, got involved with St. Vincent de Paul.
Wow. Yeah. And so that service ethic. But let's go back to those years growing up. I mean, was your mom always kind of on edge with your dad going off to pull his shift? Or, because Fort Dodge is a town where things happen, like any city in Iowa.
Certainly.
When we played Fort Dodge, that was a tough group there. So
there are certain streets you don't cross.
Okay.
Well, I hear that quite frequently. To me, it's just home. So, it's not terrible to me. But yes, I think there was probably times where Mom would prefer he had stayed at home. But the one thing she would always say is the one thing you can count on a police officer for is to not be able to count on them, because if they say they're going to be home for dinner, something's going to happen and they're not going to be home for dinner. So there was lots of those nights. And Dad was very involved in the Fort Dodge community as well. So frequently his night did not end at 4:00. He was at a high school function, or he was at a DSOC meeting, or whatever it might be, most of the time. And that's the life of a chief. He was the chief in Fort Dodge when he retired, and your work day is the entire day.
I think you were one of the potential candidates for chief.
I was.
I saw that in some news thing. Yeah. So.
Yes, I was. Mike McTaggart
right?
was named the chief, and he's done a
member
fantastic.
Member of St. Teresa's. I just
absolutely has done a fantastic job. Really enjoy working with him. I'm friends with him outside of work as well, so we have a great relationship. They picked a great person.
So, is your dad a public servant? Faith, parish life was woven into this, although not always be able to be present for weekend mass. Then, right? For him, yeah.
Yeah, there's times where you're on shift and you have to go to Saturday Mass because you're not going to be able to make it, or you show up in uniform. I mean, there's many times I can remember going to holiday Masses in uniform. You just stand at the back, you get a couple looks, but I think overall people, once they realize you're not there for anything else, they're pretty accepting of it.
Yeah, and then in a different era, now the presence of law enforcement is a comfort for many of our parishes in these somewhat trying times. So, okay, so Des Moines and the call of public service, family here, obviously, got your roots going, the new roots.
Yep, my parents, after Dad retired and Mom retired, they moved to Ankeny. Dad has since passed of lung cancer, but Mom lives just 2 blocks away from St. Luke's. My sister, who is a social worker for the VA, and her husband, who's a Des Moines police officer, both from Fort Dodge, St. Ed's grads. They live 2 blocks in the other direction from the school, and myself, my wife, and my children, we live another 2 blocks in the other direction. So the whole family right around St. Luke's and close proximity to each other, so we can all help each other out.
Kind of Dotyville there.
Really. A little bit.
Ankeny's going to be renamed. I see it coming.
And St. Luke's a dynamic parish, Father Halber, and the many young families. So I think the vitality of that parish for generations to come is assured. So.
Yes, great school. Glad that it's expanding. Glad that enrollment is up. I mean, we just couldn't be happier with St. Luke's as a school.
Yeah. So talk about your career with the department, different foci for you, and what your mission and work was there, and now things have evolved in what you're about now.
Sure. Well, I mean, I started like any officer on patrol. At one point, I worked on the west side in what we call the 306 beat, and that is where I became involved with St. Vincent de Paul, just based on calls for service. And Virginia Clem was the manager at the time, and Virginia asked me to join the board, said they had an opening. So I figured, sure, I'll do that. And I think we're 18 years later. Here we are. I'm still on the board. St. Vincent has come through a lot of different changes since then. We do a lot more things in the community than we did back then. But policing-wise, moved on to the narcotics unit and worked as a narcotics investigator for several years. One of the best jobs you can have in the police department. Just a lot of camaraderie, a lot of fun. Really feel like you're making a difference. And from there, promoted. And
bouts of peril and other things, too.
Well, there's definitely that, yes, for sure.
Yeah.
But then decided to
promote. And is that mainly plain clothes? Or?
It is plain clothes, yes.
Okay.
Yep. Right. We're not, here in Des Moines, we don't do a lot of what I would consider like undercover operations, but we are in plain clothes, so we don't stand out, drive unmarked cars. We're dealing with informants quite a bit. A lot of times the informants are the ones purchasing narcotics for us to further our investigations. But it's a highly regulated, as you would imagine, because there's a lot of liability involved. And so you got to really be on top of your game to work there. And the men and women that we have working in that unit are some of the finest that we have in the department. Yeah,
and collaborating with federal officials also, or different levels of law enforcement?
Certainly, you have to. I mean, we're outnumbered all the time, law enforcement in general at all levels, and so you have to have a collaborative efforts to get anything accomplished, not just in that realm, but I mean, even when you have dignitary visits, the feds rely upon local municipalities to help out, and vice versa. So
when we bring Pope Leo to Des Moines, you'll be involved in that level.
That would be fantastic.
I think that's next Thursday, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's been almost 50 years, so I think we're due.
He does have Midwest roots. So
Amen.
Let's see.
So good. So it's not just a path of ambition, a career track, but in your own way, that the discernment for you about now where maybe is my career and what areas of service would I like to undertake, or is it proposed to you and it's a matter of yes or no?
Well, I think that now I run the operations division, and so that's pretty much anybody who wears a uniform. And so a lot of our day-to-day operations are you call and we come, right? So, but we do have with NBSD, neighborhood-based service delivery, we do have a lot of outreach that goes on within the community, which there is some freedom to decide in which directions we're going. And homelessness is a big issue. I spend quite a bit of my time each day dealing with homelessness issues throughout the metro and how we are going to respond to them, and trying to serve multiple different people with different ideas. Right? There's a lot of people in our community that want to help, but have varying ideas of what that help looks like. And it's hard for the police department because, like I said, when you call, we come. But our function is oftentimes to take care of violations of law. We don't have a lot of outreach. I mean, we try, but that's not really our function. And we're understaffed, just like every other law enforcement agency in the country. And so every time we have some new initiative, that's pulling people away from other places in the department. And so that's a real balance that the chief and I and the other command staff have to juggle.
Because as you say, you're not a social service agency per se, and yet those are kind of the margins that you get called in on.
Absolutely. And it's not I don't mean to sound like we don't care. We certainly do, and we try, but we don't have the resources that some of our other entities like St. Vincent de Paul or Hope Ministries that they have. That's not our wheelhouse.
One of John's daughters just started with a program that works with the police department, and she will go with them on a call when it may be a social service issue. She's a mental health professional. Oh, yeah. And, to help them if they need something that it's not a criminal issue, right? But then she can take them, and that takes a huge load off of your plate, your officers' plates.
Our mobile crisis unit is phenomenal. We have a care worker in dispatch now that takes calls and sometimes can handle that call for service without sending anybody out, because oftentimes it's repeat callers, and so they're aware of their troubles. They've built a relationship with them, and they can talk them down just through the phone. But there's other times where they triage those calls, and an officer doesn't even have to go out. Our mobile crisis workers will go out, and that was a big thing recently in law enforcement to try and limit the response, the armed response, because you're right. Sometimes these folks that are in crisis, it isn't a police issue, but we're called because we come, whatever the problem is.
You call, we come.
Right. And now we are here, and sometimes that exacerbates the problem. And so if we can remove ourselves and take professionals and have them respond and handle it, that's just fantastic for all parties involved. And the outcomes we have been phenomenal. The response from officers, like the appreciation that we have for them, phenomenal. So I can't say enough. I mean, mobile crisis and mental health as a whole, all across the country, is there's such a need for it.
Yeah. Major Doty, you're giving me and our listeners a lot of hope, because these seem to be mounting issues that are sometimes intractable. And so the fact that there are human solutions for all of this. And I just feel good that, persons like yourself, who have a sense of your own dignity as a man in Christ, that you're reflecting dignity back to people who maybe don't have that sense of themselves in that way. And so that you can bring that to them and show them the respect and courtesy. Probably know most of the people that you would engage by name by now, as I certainly, living in the St. Ambrose neighborhood,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that people don't have to be their own worst enemy, but can be their ally. Your many involvements, obviously further formation and professional development with the FBI. What was that all about?
Well, I got the opportunity to go to the FBI National Academy. National Academy is in Quantico at the FBI headquarters, but it's for police executives from around the world, really. It's mostly around the country, but we do have international students that come in. And the value of that is just the networking, the people that you meet from across the country that you find have the same problems that you do in your department. And we had captains from NYPD all the way down to small town, Connecticut. So like the variance of views about law enforcement and current problems was vast, but it's nice to be able to have a resource so you can just get on the phone and call somebody and say, how do you deal with this? What do you do in your community? What are you seeing? And so that group of 260 students in my class still has a group chat that goes on, talking about, hey, does anybody have a policy for this? Has anybody ran into this? So it's an invaluable resource, really, to help, not only the department, but help me through leadership issues or, you know.
Wonderful. Well, just kind of analogous to getting off our National Bishops meeting, you know, that we can pick up the phone and call bishops in different regions of the country and share our ideas, inspirations, and our particular challenges. Well, in the next segment, we'll get back to St. Vincent de Paul and focus on that.
Great.
But then I'm just intrigued here also, your connection with the National Basketball Association.
Yeah.
Inquiring minds want to know.
We have a few seconds here before the break.
I had an opportunity to work with the G League as their security rep. It really has nothing to do with being a police officer. You're just there to make sure that the arena meets NBA protocols, security protocols, as far as where fans sit around the court. We make sure that the referees get to and from the court in a safe manner, and then you send a report to New York, to the league office after every game, which sounds more impressive than it is. But really, you get to watch basketball.
No autographs?
You get to watch basketball.
No.
Things that go on behind the scenes. And people like my nephew officiating appreciate men like you. So
we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we will be visiting more with Major Ryan Doty with the Des Moines Police Department and Vice President of St. Vincent de Paul Council. You're listening to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen on the Iowa Catholic Radio Network and the Spirit Catholic Radio Network. Welcome back to Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen.
Well, Major Doty, and we don't have a video going with this. You are in uniform today, so obviously you're going back on the job here. Thank you for your time. The relationship, 18 years with St. Vincent de Paul, and how has your role and how has you seen the mission of St. Vincent kind of evolve?
Sure. I think when we started St. Vincent de Paul, when I started on the board at St. Vincent de Paul, we were a thrift store, and that helped run our social services, our food pantry, clothing pantry, and we gave out some monetary aid. And I think in my time on the board, we've really made a conscious effort to try and create a pathway out of poverty for folks as opposed to enabling poverty. And I don't mean that in a negative context, but if we found that the same people would show up, you know, month after month after month, and what were we doing to help them, really? We were just extending it. We were getting them through. And so we really tried to focus on educational services, financial literacy services. We provide childcare while they go to school to get their GED or their high set. And so we tried to really focus, and we've continued to try and focus on those services that we can provide beyond just food and clothing. Although we do have several food pantries now, we've expanded to multiple locations as opposed to just the 6th Avenue store, which is fantastic. And Steve, our CEO, Steve Havman, does a wonderful job with him and the staff, reaching out and finding grants and finding programs that we can partner with to expand our reach.
And great stability of leadership with Steve and persons like yourself, so they can really build on things.
Absolutely.
And that transition. Some of the clients served are emerging from incarceration. Is that correct?
That is correct. We have a reentry and immersion program that has been replicated by St. Vincent de Paul National. So that's the national model, and it does a fantastic job. Randy does a great job reaching out. We have a kiosk at Polk County now, so when people, and not just inmates that are coming out, but also
Polk County
Jail. But not only them, but also the families, because a lot of times the families of these individuals need services too, and so we'll help them as well. So it's just opportunities to talk to people, to let people know
where they are.
Absolutely, where they are and how we can help. Because that's the big piece, is awareness. Just getting the message out there that you're not alone and we are here to help you. What do you need? Yep.
Yeah, who is this Vinny's I keep hearing about? Right. Yeah. He's not a cousin on the south side.
No.
All right. Yeah, good. And here we are on the cusp of Thanksgiving and the holiday season, and St. Vincent de Paul is right in the midst of all of this.
Absolutely. We certainly, see an uptick in donations, in people who need donations and people who need food, especially with, the shutdown and SNAP benefits. There's a lot of food insecurities right now. And so I just want everyone to know that if you donate to St. Vincent de Paul, whether it be monetarily or whether it be clothing or items, that stuff all stays within our community. We don't farm that out to St. Vincent de Paul National or anywhere else. That money and those items all stay within the community to help people within our community. And with the pre-established relationships that we have with the food banks, your dollar can go further letting St. Vincent de Paul purchase those items than it could if you went to Fairway or Hy-Vee and tried to purchase those items.
Yeah. I mean, I'm told, with the SNAP benefits, the proportion that at Food Bank Leadership and Mike Sheehy with Catholic Charities, that the one meal that the food pantry can supply, SNAP benefits are providing 9 meals. And so the disproportion right now, and so the need is all the more acute. And
Absolutely.
People's hearts are open, that generous spirit of Christ. And St. Vincent de Paul, who calls us through the true charity, which reveals the person and face of Jesus in this way. Any concluding thoughts for us? Anything that you want to kind of give us? I won't ask for your blessing, but I know our community is blessed by all you do. And I know we've seen you once in a while at St. Ambrose, at liturgies there on Christmas. It's not so sometimes you're not just trying to get in one Mass, you're worshiping multiple times. And certainly feel better. So thank you for all that you do for our community. You're, again, an ambassador not only of justice, but of human dignity, and we thank you for that.
Thank you.
This has been another edition of Making It Personal with Bishop Joensen. Thanks to our guests and to our listeners from Minnesota, Missouri, and everywhere in between.
Don't forget the Dakotas.
And the Dakotas, that's right. To the Iowa Catholic Radio Network and the Spirit Catholic Radio Network.
You can hear Making It Personal with Bishop William Joensen every week on Iowa Catholic Radio and iowacatholicradio.com.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio and Making It Personal is provided by Sarah Vocations Ministry. Learn more at joinserra.org.